If you watched more of my videos, then it's quite likely that you also have gotten an ad in front of the video once in a while. And one of the ads that you're quite likely to have gotten if you're interested in jazz is the one for the Herbie Hancock masterclass. And a curious thing about that is that in that video he talks about how he wants his blues licks to be more
guitar-like.
Hi everybody, my name is Jens Larsen. So if you want to check out exactly what Herbie Hancock is talking about, then you probably have to go check out that masterclass, and you can of course buy that. It's easy to find. I didn't get it, and I'm not sponsored by them. I just saw the ad and I thought it was kind of ironic and also a little bit funny to see how Herbie Hancock was talking about how he was trying to get his piano to sound more like a guitar. So the way he describes it is actually this.
You see that? Instead of bending them, we just go back and forth between them.
What he's talking about here is of course trying to emulate the ability to bend strings. So that means this type of playing. And in jazz guitar, at least in sort of more mainstream jazz guitar from the 50s and 60s, you actually won't find really a lot of that. You'll find that Jim Hall and also Wes will do it once in a while, but they're going to be sort of mostly quarter tone or half step bends. There's not really, this kind of playing is not really happening too much. And that has to do with the fact that they used really heavy strings. The blues guys and also the country guys were using, I think, banjo strings actually to have thinner strings that they could in fact bend. The way that Herbie Hancock just shortly demonstrates in the video is actually also the way that most of the jazz guys do their blues phrasing. So we do that by adding a lot of different other types of phrasing in terms of mostly hammer-on and pull-off in the form of trills, and also a lot of slides. And in this video I want to demonstrate 3 examples of some simple lines that are using this, because it's a great way to just break up your flow of 8 notes if you're soloing, and also just to add some other sounds to the solo that you're already playing by having a little bit of a different kind of phrasing. I'm just going to demonstrate talk a little bit about some of the different phrasing ideas that I'm using here, because the lines themselves are sort of a mix of a B-flat mixolydian sound, so this one, and then also just some minor pentatonic. Probably the 2 positions I'm going to be using is going to be this one and this one. Of course I'm going to be using the blue note really a lot, so that's in there as well. If we look at the first example here, the first part of it is a trill on the E flat, so on the 4th. So, and really what I'm doing here is just I'm using hammer on pull off and then ending that on the next note below in the scale, which is on the next string. And then from here I'm sliding up to the 5th, up, and then up to the 7th, skipping down to the E flat, so, and then sliding from the flat 3rd up to the 3rd, and then ending on the 5th here. And then I'm just sort of tagging that phrase with some sliding 6 intervals, so that's sliding up to 8 here and then sliding down to 6 again. In this example I'm starting with a trill again. I'm using the flat 3rd and the 3rd, and then trilling on that one and then going down to the root, up to the E flat. And really what I'm doing here is I'm kind of encircling the 3rd from the E flat and then from the flat 3rd up. But the way the flat 3rd is used is just as an approach note, so, and then just down the chord. So then I'm skipping up to the 13, so this, the G. And this is just really basic scale movement out of the mixolydian scale, so, and then down to the 4th, back to the 5th, and then approaching the 3rd from below with a grace note. And really what's important about these lines, I think, is that a lot of the time, I mean, the note material is not especially interesting. It's just going to be blues, it's just going to be mixolydian, and what gives it life and what makes it interesting is all the ways that we phrase it, all the grace notes, all the slides and all those things, because that's really what's kind of coloring what's going on and what is making the line interesting. Where in a normal jazz line you're going to be focusing on having alterations or chromatic passing notes or extensions, and in that way adding color. Here is about the way that you're phrasing the notes, and the note material is actually a little bit anarchistic, but also still really more simple and more down to earth. So whatever is happening, it's always going to be approaching the root or just using a minor pentatonic scale. So in this phrase, the blue note is really central in the way that I'm just putting it down on the one and really emphasizing, okay, we're playing blues now. And it's of course also immediately resolved to the 4th degree, then followed by a trill. And then this time the trill is just completely in the minor pentatonic scale. So, and then going into the chord again, so sliding from the minor 3rd up to the 3rd, and then up to the 5th, and then another trill, but this time more sort of out of the, just basically in the chord, so more Mixolydian sounding, and that's on the 7th and the root, down to the 5th, and then through the 6th up to the root again, and then a small tag on the whole thing, which is a triplet rhythm. So first leading note, 3rd, 5th, and then sliding up to the 7th, and ending on the 5th. So probably the way you want to introduce this sort of material into your playing is to just try and take just a little bit of these, like a small part of such a phrase, and try and see if you can use that in your own lines and really get used to how it is to. In the beginning, you can probably try it out on sort of a medium, maybe a very shuffle-like type blues, so really have that kind of backbeat kind of feel to it, and then see if you can sort of dig into that groove and get used to this type of feel. So. I think those kind of phrases are essential. Blues is really a big part of jazz, so it's worthwhile checking out. And it's also just nice to have sort of another mode that you can go to when you want to play something that's not going to be 8-note lines and bebop phrasing. Because while bebop phrasing and that type of phrasing is important, I think if you only have sort of one sound phrasing-wise, then you might actually not be really, you might be missing out a little bit. And I think that's something that you want to explore, as you probably want to explore other ways of phrasing as well. Now I talked about blues phrasing in jazz, and of course that's closely related. You hear everybody use blues phrasing. I mean, Herbie Hancock is talking about it. You can hardly listen to any Parker solo without some blues in there. That means that if there are other types of phrasing, and how do you work with this? Are there things you want to hear about that I could make a video on with types of phrasing or other types of approaches to improvisation that you think would be interesting for a video? Then leave a comment on this video, and then maybe that's something I can take up later in another video. If you want to learn more about jazz guitar and it's the first time you see one of my videos, then subscribe to my channel. The videos that I publish here every week are on finding solid methods and good strategies to check out and explore some interesting things about jazz guitar, and I already have done this for some time, so there's a lot of material already available on my channel. If you want to help me keep making videos, then check out my Patreon page. I have a small community of people over on Patreon that support me. I'm very grateful for that, and that's also really what makes it possible for me to keep on going and making videos every week. If you join us on Patreon, I can also give you something in return for your support. That's about it for this time. Thank you for watching, and until next time.